apologies for the delay in getting started. I think that we are good to go and that you should all be able to see me in my screen here. I kicked off with a poll, which I'm going to give some more context to. I was going to do it in the middle, but since we had a little bit of a false start here, I thought that we should just start with it. And looking at everybody who has joined, just want to say that my name is Scott White. I am here from Atlassian. I'm a product marketing manager in the DevOps group, and I am looking forward to this talk. So throughout the entire conversation, I'd love to get your questions throughout the time, and we can pause and have a discussion at any point through it. Just want to make sure that you can see my screen and that everything's going well. So if you want to put that into the Q&A, that would be good. But I think that everything is rocking, so let's get started. So today we're going to talk about a few things. And again, just put the questions in. If you have any technical difficulties or you're not seeing anything, put it in the Q&A. I'm happy to answer, and I'm looking at the live chat as well. So thanks for that, Peter. It looks good. Fantastic. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about friction in the developer experience. We're going to talk about synchronizing data across tools. We're going to talk about collaborating with the visibility that you get when you synchronize those tools, and we're going to talk about automating processes. And so what that is going to look like for us is we're going to start out by just giving some lay in the land of the DevOps ecosystem. So this looks like a waterfall representation, but it's made to illustrate a couple points. That going from plan all the way over to monitor, whether or not you look at it in a waterfall sense, a lot of times what you have is you have a lot of different point solutions. And in the last 10 years, or I guess it's now 14 years since Flickr came out with the 10 deployments a day talk and kicked off the DevOps cultural change. But you know, what we've had since then is a tremendous amount of innovation in tooling. So for plan, for coding, for building, I mean, there are so many new tools in the last 10 years that have allowed for software development to go faster with higher quality and more consistency. But what we're looking at today is the problem that this creates friction and that hurts your developer experience. The fact that each of these tools is in its fact a point solution. So there's usually, like, GitHub will be code and build. Zephyr or X-Ray can be testing. Deployment can be Octopus deploy. And you have an entire tool chain of these amazing apps. But what you're looking for is looking for a developer experience that can lift throughout the SDLC. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect all of those tools so that you have visibility and control across the entire SDLC, which allows you to remove friction and improve that developer experience. So that's kind of setting the context of our discussion today. I'd love to have any questions and keep them coming, but I'll jump right on in. So what does this look like? Well, your data is going to be stuck in your tools. When you are looking into terms of how to use DevOps for planning or for collaboration, you need the complete picture to make good decisions. So that requires that developers understand where the work is that they're picking up. It requires that engineering managers know the status of work. It means that designers have the most up-to-date designs for the developers ready. But right now, as I was talking about before, the development work is isolated from your planning process specifically, and isolated from each other as a whole. And so what we're going to look at is unifying your tooling with Jira Software. So these are just example tools, but these categories from Explore and documentation, you would have a numerous set of tools. the Jira software integrates with, has a massive marketplace of integrations, but these particular tools and these categories are what we want to focus on today. But it could be that you have GitLab instead of GitHub. It could be that you have Stackhawk instead of Sneak in security, and so on and so forth. So it's not these specific tools, but I wanted to show in this graphic that there's a numerous amount of tools that you can use, and it goes across a lot of different categories. So Explore would be looking at whiteboarding, discovering product designs. It could even be diagramming your processes. Documentation could be your run books, or could be work with marketing. SCM is obviously source code management, where you're going to keep your code. And moving on from there, I think it's pretty straightforward. But what we have the opportunity with Jira Software is taking all these disparate tools and bringing them together under one unified data model. Oh, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that poll for a second and just talk about what we were talking, what I was kind of alluding to, and I was going to show the poll around now, was in these different categories, I was wondering how many connections you all have made to Jira Software. So I see that it's a little bit from 1 to 3. So there's different amounts of connections that people have made, but some people have made multiple ones, and that's what we're going to look at today, is how when you have multiple connections to Jira Software, you start to compound the abilities within Jira to do more comprehensive planning and automations. So let's just start with, I'm going to go through each of these different categories and talk through the benefits within Jira Software by making the connection. So, for example, if we look at the integration into Confluence, so through documentation, what you can see is you can easily create release notes through different filters, different properties, so that they're always up to date and they're always formatted in the correct way with the correct amount of documentation in there. So these are release notes that you can either represent internally or externally. So this is just one example of the benefit of connecting with Confluence, that first integration that we were talking about. So what this allows you to do as well is has project pages so that you can use either Confluence or Google Drive to bring up all your project pages that are associated with a particular project in Jira Software. For example, you could have all of your go-to-market activity or your positioning. It could be all your run books. It could be all of your diagramming. It could be all of those sort of things would be in your project pages, and you can always create release notes as well. I'm going to go this a little bit more into the project pages here. So this is an example with Google Drive. What we have is that you can just see that you can easily create all of your different documents and have them all laid out in your project in this project page. Now I just want to look at the next category, planning. So when you integrate planning tools like Lucid, Miro, Mural, whiteboarding tools like that, or diagramming tools like that, what you can do in this case, what we have is Lucid boards attached to this issue. So with the integration from those tools, the planning tools into Jira Software, you can attach the diagramming tools into your specific issues. That allows your developers and your designers, or your developers if you're doing diagramming of the workflows of the processes, to all be on the same page as far as exactly what is the current design, what is the latest thinking, and it ensures that everybody has that up-to-date documentation for your planning. So this is really exciting as far as the ability to keep everyone on the same page, and we're just going to keep rolling with that theme, that the more integrations you do, the more capacity you have to have everyone on the same page in collaboration across different tools. So moving on from planning, what we have coming out is a new Figma integration later this year, and so that will have an additional layer of um, capabilities that include the ability to see live Figma people. Sorry, the collaboration, to be able to do the collaboration right inside Jira Software, so that you can see what's going on, where the collaborators are, and sharing the live documentation of a Figma app. It is really exciting and will be launched later this year. I'm going to continue on to SCM. So with source code management in that category, when you're looking at integrating that into Jira, you get the code tab, which is particularly exciting because it allows you to go through all your linked pull requests. So what you do is you end up connecting your code repositories across different tools. You can see here that we have GitHub and Bitbucket associated with this project. And you can have the different pull requests, and you can see who is the author of it, who's the reviewer, when was the status of it, has it been merged, has it not. Also, when you do code integrations, you get some icons on the board view, which allows you to see, is it in a pull request, is there a commit, with a glance on the board view. So, and we're going to extend this to CI/CD. So next category, CI/CD, you get that CI/CD data in issues, you get deployment insights, you get more automations, and you get deployment timeline. And I'm going to keep talking about this, that what's really exciting about these connections between all these categories of tools in Jira Software is that the more integrations you do, the more powerful the features in Jira Software become. So taking a look at CI/CD, this is the deployment timeline. And so this is the deployment tab, and it gives you the ability to see throughout each issue, where has it been deployed, when was it deployed, was it successful? You can drill down on each of these deployments to see what the details are, and then to click through to your deployment tool, whether it's GitHub Actions or Octopus, it doesn't matter. But it allows you to see what has been going on in your project as far as deployments goes. The next category up that I want to talk about is security. So we launched security in Jira in June of this year with 5 different partners, with StackHawk, Sneak, Lacework, JFrog, and Mend. We just launched the ability to have GitHub security as well. We did that last week, and what this allows you to do, security in Jira allows you to do, is take all the security vulnerabilities identified in your tools, create and link Jira issues to those vulnerabilities, assign them to team members, and even do automations on those vulnerabilities to make sure that they're up to date. So what we found at Atlassian is that there's multiple security tools for every team. Because there's SaaS, there's DaaS, there's different levels of, or there's different security tools for different aspects of the SDLC. And what we found is that you have around 2.8 tools, security tools on average. So that 0.8 tool is really exciting, but that means that there are multiple tools. And what security in Jira allows you to do is allows you to bring in the security vulnerabilities identified by those multiple tools and bring them into one section that you're already doing your planning. So for example, if I had Sneak and I had JFrog, I could, instead of having to go between different tools and creating issues from each of those tools and then copying the data back into Jira, it'll all come right down into the same security tab, and here you'll be able to filter and triage your vulnerabilities directly in Jira. So this is an example of, as you do more integrations in these different categories, it enables and unlocks different features within Jira itself. And so I think the security tool is a great example of this, and it has been really exciting to see the response from the community since we launched this in June. And this has been a great hit, and we're really excited to have GitHub join us last week. So I have a couple more views that I want to talk about, and one of them is this Releases Hub. So the Releases Hub in Jira Software is another tab. It is under the Security tab, in the development panel, and it allows you to see what's going on in a release. So for example, you can identify in a release or a fixed issue, depending on how you look at it in the issue tracker. It allows you to identify these specific issues are for this release, and in this particular view, you can see that you have related work at the top, and that allows you to put either your design specs, your testing strategies, it could be your documentation or how you're going to communicate your launch, it could be any blogs, it could be marketing work, but what the related work area allows you to do is it allows you to bring in this additional documentation, assign it to someone within your team. So it could be allowing you to have some marketing visibility across different tools, but it could be the design spec, and again, it could be your runbooks. It allows you to see the status of those. And then below that are the issues, so all the issues associated with this release. And you can see that we have some icons for each of these issues. So you can see the status, the priority, and the assignee, but you can also see if the branch has been created, if it's been committed, has the deployment been successful into what environment, and you can also see the feature flag rollout. And we haven't talked about feature flags yet, but as you do more integrations, of course, you get more abilities within Jira Software, and one of them is the feature flag. And one of the ways that that does really stand out is in this Releases tab, where you can see that you have a 50% rollout for this first issue, develop primary user flow pages, and we have 100% rollout for this other issue. It allows us to see what issues are in the are currently available in production, and then we can see, well, what needs to be rolled out next, where are the problems coming up in a particular rollout, and it really allows you to have what we call progressive delivery capabilities in your rollout, where you can say, we're going to roll out 20% today, 30% next week, 50% the week after, and you can do incremental releases in a very controlled way with using feature flags, and that allows you to see, well, okay, it's been great for 20%, now let's try 50%, and it allows you to scale back and roll back really easily because of the capabilities of feature flags, and all this is great within the Releases tab, so you can see exactly what's been rolled out to who and when, and then you can have these related work, and then over on the right side you can see the progress, and then whose contributors and who are the approvers of this release. So I really like the Releases tab. I think it's very powerful, and it allows you to see like the value of integrating multiple tools in the Jira software to get views like this, so that you can really see, well, what's going on in my release, what is associated with my release, who are the contributors to my release, and how we rolled it out to the production. And that's all in this simple view, and it becomes more powerful, I think, the more integrations that you do. So one thing that we want you to do is we want to allow you to build your own tool chain and explore the marketplace. And within your project page in Jira is the project settings, there's a page called the toolchain page. And there you can see all of these different categories that we've been talking about. And you can explore the marketplace for the different apps that you use. You can install them and configure them from the toolchain page. For example, here we have Bitbucket, Confluence, and GitHub. And this allows you to really understand the breadth of the toolchain that you can integrate into Jira Software, as well as the depth into each of these categories of what apps are available. So I've been talking a lot about all of these different categories and all of these features that it enables, and I like to put this together into this graphic where on the left we have all the categories that we talked about. And in each of those categories, you have your own choice of tools. We understand that the tool that's best for you might not be the tool that's best for another organization, or even another team perhaps. But the source code management tool that you use for you should work best for you and we understand that those tools are amazing. When you integrate your tools into Jira Software, it unlocks the features on the right. Those are the ones that we've just been talking about, from the code tab, the deployment tab, progressive delivery in the release tab, board icons, designs, everything that we just went through is enabled by doing the integrations on the left. So what this looks like when we start to do these integrations, and the reason why I had that poll is because when you start to hit 2 or 3 integrations, you start to see the real capability of visibility and synchronized data across your tool chain. So you start to make connections between your tools through Jira, which allows you to not only have better visibility within the issues, but it has icons on the board. You get these the capabilities within each of the tabs, project pages, code tab, deployment tab, in this case, if you did documentation, SCM, and CI/CD. But then what we're going to talk about now is that also really enables powerful automations. So on your first integration, you can always do automations using that integration. So we're going to talk about this in a second, but you could always say, is my deployment successful? Or if a deployment is successful, change the status of an issue. But when you have multiple integrations or connections to your apps, you can have, if you have 2 or 3 or more apps connected to Jira, you can do automations across tools. And so you can start to move data and synchronize data across tools. And what that allows for is that developers don't have to go back to Jira to do status updates. They don't have to go back to Jira to make sure that their progress is communicated to their team members. It allows them to be able to see what's going on when they finish a task and need to find out what they're doing next. It allows them to see, well, exactly where is this work? What branches have been created? What was in the last commit? Who reviewed the last code change? What deployments have been made? What were the security vulnerabilities associated with it? This is a lot of detail in your SDLC has been hidden in your tools, and as you connect them to Jira, it allows you to unearth all of those connections and allows your developers to reduce friction in their workload because they don't have to change context. They don't have to look for details of where work is. They can trust the source of truth, and they can continue to move on through their workflow and know that their progress is being captured within Jira. Furthermore, for team leads, you can see the ability to plan and have the visibility across releases, across projects, and be able to see the status of work so that you are very confident in what you can do in any given sprint or sprints in the future. So now I just want to talk about automations. So, for example, you can move an issue to done when a PR has been approved. And the way that we've done automations is that it can be any of these tools. So it doesn't have to be GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. It can be all of them. It can be any of them. It can be other SCM tools as well. But what it allows you to do is you can have synchronized work from your SCM tools into Jira. Then you can always extend that. So if a build fails, you can also add a comment in Jira, but send a Slack message. So you can have the status update in Jira, but also have a communication to your Slack tool or Slack. And the same goes with security. So if a vulnerability is identified or created, you can send a Slack message. These automations are the ones that remove those manual steps in developer experience, and each of these removes friction. It helps allow your developers to focus on coding and reduces those errors, and they can really spend their time on high value work. So let's just talk a little bit more about what the power of automations are and why it really works to have multiple integrations. So we recommend that you start with SCM and then go to CI/CD. Because what you have is you have all these triggers in automations that allow you to have it when a branch is created and pull request is merged, when a build has failed, All these things allow you to start an automation. So all these activities that developers do day in and day out, they can have sequences triggered just by doing the work within their tools. So once again, the value of this is that you don't have to context switch. You don't have to automatically go back into Jira and say, like, I did this build or this is the pull request. It is all automatically done for you. And in the same way, the DevOps actions, so the things that will be acted upon in an automation, would be Jira, which we already looked at. So you can make a comment, you can always delete or add an issue. But within the DevOps tooling, you can also create a branch, link vulnerabilities, create feature flags, create Confluence pages. And so that allows you to move work through the tools. So when I was showing that graphic earlier that showed that if you had documentation, SCM and CI/CD integrated, you get more powerful automations that you could use, like when you create a branch or when you have a successful deployment, you can automatically create a feature flag. Things like that are what are capable, what your team can do if you do have multiple tools connected to Jira Software. So I want to kind of wrap up the conversation there. I want to talk about just in our DevOps community, we have a lot of content around what we just talked about. So if you want to learn more, I recommend just looking at the Atlassian DevOps community. We have the Developer's Edge, which are videos that go into the depth of how to configure each of these. We have plugin and Jira articles that talk about the different integrations and the value of each of them. We have the DevOps Storyteller, which is allows you to share your own experience and talk with others who have also done integrations. And yeah, just wanted to let you know that there are more researchers out there in case you do want to learn more about this area of Jira Software. And with that, I would love to have any other questions. I really appreciate you all joining today and learning more about how to integrate your tools with Jira Software. If you all have any questions, please put them in the Q&A, and I would love to have a discussion. Let me just check the Q&A or the live chat. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for attending. So I would just kind of go with like some of the FAQs that we normally get, and I'll just start there. If there are any questions, you can put them in, but I'll just stick with one, and then we can go from there. One of the things that we get is where do you start? And I think that I mentioned that you start with SCM tools because that's usually where the code starts. That's where the work starts. So it's really a great place to start. And then going to CI/CD, and then what you can do is depending on your software structure, like the team topology. Like if you have designers, then we might recommend integrating Figma or Miro at that point if they're doing that, if you're doing diagramming. So if you're like working on diagrams about how to do your different scenarios, I would say integrate Lucid. We also have found again that security in Jira feature has been very beneficial to those that have used it so far. So I'd recommend trying out the security feature and bringing all those identified vulnerabilities across your multiple tools into Jira. It really does help to triage and manage security vulnerabilities at scale. Great. So that's just the most common question that I've gotten since doing this sort of discussion. But if there are any other questions, otherwise I think that that might be the end of the talk. But I really would appreciate any questions, and I really, really appreciate all your time. Thank you so much.
I'm not actually Peter, but that's okay. Logging quick. Yes, thank you so much, Scott. Any last minute questions? I know we're at the end of the day and it is getting late for some people, unfortunately.
That's all right. I understand at the end of the day it's been a wonderful day of sessions, and so I can see how you all feel. And again, thank you for taking the time out today to join.
Yeah, thank you so much. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to Scott too if you do think of anything.
Oh, please do. Yeah, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.